What if I told you your biggest enemy is not the situation you're facing, but the story that you're telling yourself about it? There is no doubt about it that all of us have faced something or are facing something that makes us feel like things are out of our control, like we don't know how it's going to end up. And we begin to create this story in our minds about how bad it's going to be, about how, we plan for the worst case scenario. We're hardwired to think that way. And one story that people know well, I mean, I grew up hearing this story, but I heard it from a deeper level, and it's a biblical story. And it's one that people think they know about. But until you take a moment to look at it at a deeper level, it's not the same. And it's the story of the 12 spies in Canaan. And it was in the book of Numbers, chapters 13 and 14. And most people just sum it up to be about two. They sum it up to be about Joshua and Caleb, who weren't afraid. But if you were to just slow it down a little bit and then connect it to what I love, Stoic principles, you realize that story speaks to what Seneca said when he said that we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. So what really happened in this situation? 12 spies were sent in. And when they get there, they see firsthand, they see giants and they see fortified cities and challenges that were seemingly impossible to overcome. And 10 of them came back full of fear. And their words were, "We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them." That's Numbers chapter 13, verse 33. But I want you to notice something about this. They weren't actually harmed in this situation. They didn't actually have to fight. The whole thing that made it so hard for them is that they created a story about what might happen, and they were so fearful that it prevented them from acting. The people who were shaped by this fearful imagination, they cried all night, and they turned to Moses, and they even longed to go back to slavery, to go back to troubled situations. How many times have we been there? Here's the reality. The true obstacle was never the giants. In the same way, the true obstacle is not the giant in your life. It's the imagined defeat. Joshua and Caleb saw the exact same land. They saw the same situation. They saw the same giants. They saw the same fortified walls. But the difference was in their perspective and how they viewed it. The difference was that they had a level of faith and trust in God that they could not be shaken. This is where the depth of the story lies. It's not about having military tactics in situations that we experience. It's great to have that, but no plan survives the first shots of combat anyway. So what happens is we begin to create this thing where we interrupt our faith. We have this battle between our imagination and this battle between faith. And oftentimes our imagination is the one that ends up winning. And so when we think about this from Seneca's words, how we suffer more in imagination than how we do in reality, the Israelites in this situation, they feared defeat. They feared it, and it caused them to stay in this situation. I don't want us to do the same thing. How many things do we have that we're struggling with? Their imagination, their unchecked faith was the thing that kept them from entering their promise. Where does your faith lie in the situations that you're facing? And so here's the message that I have for you. Most of the giants that are in our lives right now will never be the thing that takes us down. It's the giant that we create in our mind that ultimately has the control. And as I shared this morning on a coaching call, we have to remember that there's a greater giant. Let's go back to the scripture. The scripture said we seem like grasshoppers, right, in our eyes. And it seemed like it to them as well. Well, if you constantly see that, that's the way it's going to be. I need you to see the giant that God is. And I need you to see that your situation is that grasshopper that they spoke about. Your situation can change. Your situation will change if you change your self-talk, if you change your narrative, if you change the fact that you're telling yourself every day, I can't make it. I can't do this. I won't be successful. The relationship won't get right. My kids won't do what they need to do. If you change the narrative, life will be so much better. That's all I got, man. I love y'all. Let's go.